New to fishing, heard about the Texas rig, but you're not quite sure how to rig it? Well, you're in the right place. Daren Wendell with Wendell Fishing. I'm going to walk you through how to rig the Texas rig. I'm going to show you what lures to use, what size hooks to use, what type of weights to use, how to fish this bad boy, and by the end, you won't feel ready. You'll be ready. You'll be catching more bass. So the Texas rig is the cornerstone of bass fishing. Brought on the scene in 1949 as a great way to fish a worm through vegetation without getting snagged up. And since then, it's evolved from the worm and it's moved over to creature baits and lizards and brush hogs and you name it. All right, there's a few components to the Texas rig that you're going to need. And the first is going to be a bullet sinker like you see there. It's streamlined and so it minimizes drag in the water. It's the heart of the Texas rig. Now, you can buy them in lead, you can get them in tungsten. Lead is cheaper and so it's probably going to be used more. However, tungsten is becoming more popular with anglers. Not only is it a smaller size, it provides more sensitivity. So you're going to feel what's at the bottom of that lake or river that you're fishing a whole lot more with a tungsten weight. And a lot of people don't like using lead because of its negative impact on the environment, right? A lot of birds will, if you get your tackle lost in the water, a lot of birds, there's a giant bass, 2 bass right in front of me. I'm going to try to catch these things with a Texas. Oh, and they're gone. Well, that was fun. Giants. What am I doing here? Shoot a freaking video. Where are they at? Oh yeah. So a lot of these lead sinkers are actually banned in some states. New Hampshire prohibits the sale and use of lead weights under 1 ounce. Maine does the same thing. New York prohibits the sale under 1/2 ounce. Oh, they're back. They are back. Come on. We're right at the beginning of pre-spawn, so they're kind of moving up a little shallow. Next, let's talk about the hook. You can use one of 2 hooks. You can use an offset worm hook or an extra wide gap hook. The extra wide gap is going to be great for your heavier creature baits because you're going to be able to move a lot of plastic out of the way, and you're going to be able to do that with the extra wide gap hook. Now, if you want a better hookup ratio, you can use the offset hook. It's going to have an angle to that hook bend. It's going to give you that better hookup. Next, you got the lures you can use. This is a 10-inch ribbon tail worm. You can use any type of creature baits. These are the banger lizards from Headbanger Lures. Let me get one of those, show you what that looks like. There we go, juicy. So this is how you set up your Texas rig. You're gonna take your sinker and the tapered edge you're gonna put on first. Let that slide down. Then you're gonna take your hook. You're gonna run a Palomar knot. So running Palomar is really easy. Run it through once and run it right back through like so. There you go. Now what we're going to do is just make an overhand knot with the loop end, like that, run it through, and then with that loop right there, you're going to run your hook through it, and that's the Palomar. So wet it, tighten it down, clip off the tag end. Now you have that sinker on the hook. Now what we're going to do, take the hook right through the top and bring it out like that, right there. You're going to run this all the way down to the offset and flip it around so it looks like this. Now what we're going to do is line that up right there where the hook needs to go in. You're going to bend it over, bring that up through like that. And next what we're going to do is take the needle part and just kind of bury that in the plastic a little bit, and this is what's going to make it weedless. So when you're bringing that through the weeds, you don't get that tip basically catching any of the underwater vegetation. Right now, there's 2 real good ways to fish the Texas rig. The first one's going to be you just throw it out there and you drag it slowly through the vegetation. This is highly, highly effective. And so you're going to be able to sneak through that grass without getting caught up. That's the beauty of the Texas rig, and just get ready to set that hook. All right, so just remember when you cast this out, you're going to want to keep the end of your pole towards your lure, right? So it's going to give you enough leverage to set that hook. If you're just dragging it with your rod tip up in the air, once that hits, you're not going to have any leverage to set the hook. So same thing for the second way. I don't know where these bass went, they're around here, but you're going to cast this out. And the second way is just popping it on the bottom of the floor. So pop, pop, and you kind of pop it through vegetation instead of just kind of dragging it through vegetation. Pop, pop, feel tug on the other end. Sometimes the bass will come towards you, so you'll tug and you'll feel slack. Reel down and then set the hook. And so you don't want to set the hook into a bunch of slack. And so Those are the two ways that you could fish the Texas rig. Highly effective for catching bass, especially during the summers when that vegetation's coming up on the bottom of the lake floor. You're gonna be able to pick them up. All right, so I'm gonna show you the setup for the Texas rig. Now, some anglers will use a spinning rod setup, and I wouldn't recommend that unless you're fishing a really, really small Texas rig. Most anglers will use a bait caster setup, which I'm using right here. I'm gonna be using on the length around a 7.2 to 7.4 length rod. This is gonna be a medium heavy powered rod. So this is gonna give you enough backbone if you do catch a bass that's down in a bunch of vegetation to be able to get that bass up and out of that cover. Now, when it comes to line, you have to determine your line based off the type of cover that you're fishing. You're fishing really heavy cover, you might want to use like a 17-pound fluorocarbon. You're fishing a lily pad, you might want to switch over to braid. It's going to have zero stretch. You're going to be able to pull those bass up and out of those lily pads, cut through the lily pads if necessary. And when it comes to weight, when you're fishing shallow water, when you're fishing a really light cover, you can use a 1/4 ounce to an 1/8 ounce for your lead sinker or your tungsten sinker. For heavy cover, you might need to put an ounce on there, maybe even more, to punch through those mats. And when you're fishing deep water, you might want to use a 1/2 ounce weight. Typically, when I say deep water, I mean anything over 20 feet. Now, also, if you're punching through some heavy cover, you might want to peg your weight. And kind of an OG way to do that is basically stick a toothpick between your sinker and your line. I don't love doing that. I feel like it compromises the line by providing undue pressure there. And so you can just put a bobber stop on your line there. If you're going through really heavy cover, you can put double bobber stops on there. And that's going to keep your lead sinker from like kind of going up the line and potentially not dropping with your presentation through that heavier cover. And there you have it. That's the Texas rig. It's really easy, really simple to fish, and hopefully you're going to have a whole lot of luck with it. Now, if you want to learn a couple other techniques, this one's a really simple one too. How to fish the wacky worm. I've caught hundreds and hundreds of bass every single season. Check out that video right there. And I caught my personal best 7 pounds up here in Northeast Ohio on the Yamatanuki, which is a heavy plastic. You can check out that video right there. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you.